what's funny is that on Xbox,
Yes.
you still got it wrong. Like, what in the world?
We got to the song. True love, babe. True love, babe. Come on. 2 parts of me and my husband. And you were there in spirit. All right. I was going to do the other part, but true love, babe.
Do it, I dare you.
Yeah, so on the description for this video, I had the words in a different order, but now that like it's been Truth, Love, Faith this whole time, I'm like, it would be so weird to change the order. Truth, you need to be closer to me. We can't see you.
It's because I'm the darker skin.
Okay.
Anyway, welcome to today's show.
Like, come on now. Okay, so we are doing today's show. It's a impromptu show. We have a topic that was brought up by my sister-in-law. Let me introduce myself for those of you who have not been watching the show. My name is Madi. Go by Christian Madi TV on my other channel, where I claim to do music, but I haven't really posted on there, so it's just a claim. This is my husband, James the Bishop. He has a show called What is Truth? He's on Dust Your Bibles Off with our friend Ali J. And he also has a show called Nerds Be Like, which is under the channel Cradle Productions. If you're an anime nerd, Marvel DC nerd, toy collection nerd, just any kind of nerd.
If you're a nerd who pushes his glasses up like this is the channel for you.
Yeah. So you can find him on that channel. I think it's like NBL or Nerds Be Like or something. Cradle Productions. Cradle is spelled Credo. And then this is my sister-in-law. You need to move closer too, so you're completely in the frame. I ain't got a lot of room
you're
here.
Completely in the view.
Yeah. So this is Maridith. I don't know what you're saying.
Keep going.
But she is one of the singers in the Markham Family. Amen. Which is my husband's whole family, and I guess that includes me now because I'm a Markham too, you know. But yes, amen. Markham Strong, which was started officially yesterday, was stated that it was officially started by her mother. So now that everybody's saying it, she trademarked it, so you can't use it with your last name. You have to pay royalties. But yes, Maridith brought up a topic, which could you just restate your topic? We just started talking about it, and I said we need to talk about it on here.
So I was looking through YouTube. I follow a lot of YouTubers, and one of the YouTubers that I follow, they were posting something, and I was looking at their video that they were posting. But I remembered something, which is that they have been together for like 14, 15 years. They're both in their 30s. They're like reaching their late 30s together. They've been together for all those years, and they're still not married. And even when you go into their comment section or anything, a lot of their followers ask them like, "Oh, why aren't you guys married? Oh, why aren't you guys married?" And they always just like throw it off. But it's like, you've been together for this many years. Why aren't you married yet? I don't get it. I really don't.
So I did put in the description. This is a question that has come up a lot. A lot of people have said, I don't want to get married because it's too big of a commitment. Meanwhile, they have children together. They live together. They're sharing all the bills. And one could argue they are already doing the things that married people will do. I mean, getting married is just what you're doing. You're making it legal. You're giving each other. Well, let's not get into that. Yeah, I want to know what your thoughts are on what Maridith has brought up before I get all in my sauce.
Well, when she brought it up, I immediately thought of a friend of mine years ago who was in the same predicament, and she had only been in a relationship for 8 years, and still, it it left me puzzled because I was just like, that's a long time to be with one person. Another friend of ours is getting ready to have a celebration because she and her husband have been married for 10 years. So them knowing the work that it takes, the pressure that's on, the fun, the joys, the laughter, the crying, the pain, like they endured this for 10 years.
Oh yeah.
Together in marriage. So it puzzled me, and because I'm like, okay, you all have been together 2 years less than them, like almost reaching that point, and you've done this without a commitment. So so in not committing to one another, you're committing to not commit, but to still stay together.
Together.
So I was just, and then another thing that comes in, I've heard of relationships where, the couple are in this situation and they started dating, the woman already had a child by somebody else. Then she's dating somebody else, and then they date X amount of years. So this child has seen this relationship for more than they've been alive, for longer than they've existed on this planet, and they still just look at the person as, that's my mom's boyfriend, or that's my dad's girlfriend. Though you've been together for so long, like they're in high school now, and you started dating this person when they were in kindergarten.
Yeah,
like that's it's puzzling. Go ahead.
Yeah, it really just doesn't make any sense to me because you're already doing everything that married people do. And it's like there are, like we were talking about earlier, there are benefits to being married. There's not a reason except for that you just don't want to do it. Mm-hmm. And then also, I was saying that to me, if I was in that situation, it would be almost an insult to me to where, like, you don't want to get married to me because, oh, what if something happens, or what if we break up, or what if one of us meets somebody else and we don't want to be together? Like, why are you trying to think about what the worst case scenario would be while we're trying to be together?
Yeah.
If something's going to happen, if something's going to happen, it's going to happen. Whether we're married or not.
Yeah. It's like
you can still break up if you're dating.
It's like Mother Willow said on Pocahontas. When Pocahontas was given all these what ifs, she said, okay, what if the sun turns to fire and your nose falls off?
Right.
Does that mean that you just should stop what you're doing and not do anything at all? Because it's like, okay, what if you went to college and got this great degree, and every time you try to get a job, you never get a job? Never. And I mean, not even at McDonald's. Like, what if that happens? Why go to college? But we have values. There are values in things that a lot of people like kind of push off. We hold values to certain things. Why do we throw away or diminish the value of marriage? And that's really what the question is. Why Madi thought to bring us on here is because the question is, why is marriage devalued? Like, why is it diminished in our culture today? Because I guarantee you, I love this woman right here. But when we first started dating, I said to her, well, on the one, I only want to date you I want us to, how long we date, I limit to 3 years. Because I'm like, in that time, we've learned enough to say yay or nay on marriage. Like, that's it. Now a lot of people go further. Everybody has their point. But to me, even 5 years is a little extensive. You should know by 5 years.
You should know by before 5 years.
You should know before 3. Really?
Years, look,
I was trying to get married to her after 5 months.
You think it has to be a big wedding with a big reception and a big, like it don't have to be all that. And if that's why you're waiting 5 years, like that's an excuse. Like to me, at least in my opinion, I feel like you can go and apply for a marriage certificate. You can go and get married at the courthouse and just whenever you want. Later on, you can do a. His parents got married in their house. In their house.
Yeah. No, in the church office.
Yeah, the church office.
After 3 months.
After 3 months, and then they at their 25th anniversary. 20. I didn't know them yet.
20th was their 20th anniversary.
Then that's when they did their big wedding and their big reception. We know an older couple from our church. They got married, and then they did their reception. They got married on a Sunday. They told the pastor that they wanted to get married. That Sunday, they got married right after service, and then they had their reception like a couple years after that. And I got to go to the reception. That was like one of the first things that I attended going to that church. But yeah, so it's not a requirement to have a big wedding. It's not a requirement to have a big wedding when you first get married if you want a big wedding. And I just don't see like the validity of making that a requirement or saying that, I mean, that's like a whole other thing. That's not even having to do with what we're talking about with the commitment part of it. But if that's what you're waiting on, you need to pick something else to be waiting on because that's not it. Like, it's really not it. It's not that expensive. Mm-hmm. It's really, really not that expensive. It's free to meet another Christian couple that can walk with you in marriage and help counsel you and that you can be honest with and open with. That is free. Okay. What you were saying earlier, where, people kept bringing up the what ifs, that made me think about The Office. When Michael and Holly, if you don't watch The Office, you're missing out. It's on Netflix.
Watch it while you can.
Yeah, watch it before it's going to be taken off after December 31st. But Michael and Holly were dating again for the second time. They broke up the first time because of distance. They got back together, and there was a rummage sale that they did in the warehouse of The Office. And Michael had a bunch of things that he was trying to sell. And there was something that, like, somebody came up to his table because they wanted to buy one of the things that he had. And he was kind of like coming up with excuses as to why he didn't want to get rid of it. And then he just didn't sell. I mean, like, he just ended up not selling it. But basically, in the process of him explaining why he didn't want to get rid of it, Holly was like, are you holding on to that, like, just in case? Like, just because originally he was scared that they were going to break up again because of the distance, because she had to leave to Colorado to go take care of her parents. And like, they were already settled that they were in love. But like, he had to tell her, well, I don't have a just in case. Do you have a just in case? She was like, no. So then they were both married. They were both married. They were both like happy that they had decided they were going to stay together. So then he just kicked everybody away from the table. Like, I'm not selling anything.
I'm keeping this.
Yeah, I'm keeping everything because I love this woman. Yeah. So that was like, they knew that they didn't have a just in case. They didn't have a backup plan. And I think that's one of the issues that a lot of people have. They keep thinking, well, what if something else comes along? If you are that unsure about the person you are with, you are wasting their time. You're wasting their time. If you're sitting there thinking, what if somebody more handsome comes along, or prettier comes along, or what if someone with more money or a better job comes along? What if there's something about their looks that I'm never going to get over it, or, I'm getting tired of. If all of those things and you're still thinking and thinking and thinking on them, you don't really like the person completely. you're going to have arguments. And that's not what I'm talking about at all. People with a mind to think about what I'm saying know what I'm saying. If you're finding excuses as to why you're waiting, and you're wasting that person's time. You are wasting their time, and that is a disservice to that person and a disservice to you.
One of the things I do want to point out is before we started dating, Mari had a list.
Oh yes.
Now there are a lot of people like who might listen to this and be like, "Oh, that's doing the most." But quite honest, I have my own list. I didn't have it written down, but she had it written down. Everybody has something. And if you are with someone who does not complete that list, don't just not waste that person's time. Don't waste your time.
Right.
Life is too short for this.
Right.
And also life is too short to walk around and post depressing, I wish I were in a relationship posts. Because I realized like I'm on Twitter, I'm back on Twitter. But years ago when I first made my Twitter, I got off because I got so irritated at looking at all these I want to be in a relationship posts. I want a man who does this. I want a girl who does this. But then in real life, neither of those people who are posting it are humble enough to submit to being in a steady relationship. They always find something wrong, or someone always finds something wrong with them.
Oh, and they're usually not trying to fix themselves. Like
yes,
they'll still be sleeping around. They're still in illegitimate relationships. They're still in, we can't be doing this. Like when I was in the process of waiting for my husband, I couldn't be in 5 or 6 different I'm talking to you in a text and I'm messaging you in the inbox and I'm doing I couldn't do that. Hi Mary. But I couldn't do that. I couldn't be out here just talking to whoever and then talking to him like I'm really trying to be godly about this and I'm committed to knowing more about who you are and what you bring to the table. Are you going to take care of me? Do you love your mother? Do you take care of your mother? Do you love your family? Do you get along with your family? Do you pay your bills on time?
I do.
Do you go to school? Do you do your homework? Are you responsible? Do you go to work?
Yes.
Do you read your Bible? Do you know how to sing?
Oh my God! Don't yell at me. Is that
a guy or a girl in the red shirt? Probably.
You talking about me?
It's my beautiful husband.
Right. I'm a man. I'm a man.
But,
I'm a real man.
But yeah,
I'm a real man.
Okay.
Let me add some bass.
Okay, don't do that. You sound like you're about to.
Yeah, oh, freedom.
Okay. But yeah, so don't read them comments. There's some trolls on there. So
then y'all both read the comments.
Oh no, I just want to see what they were saying. Keep going.
Yeah.
I'm not convinced.
They're about to get blocked in a second.
Oh my God. Anyway,
it's quite womanly.
It's just trolls. Don't waste your time. Don't pull a Jason.
No. Just like start going in on people.
But yeah. So
give us $5 each. I'll add more bass to my voice. That's fine.
but yeah. So the thing is, we can't waste somebody's time. Mm-hmm. We can't waste somebody's time if we are unsure. We have to learn and know what we're looking for. So part of the thing is, if you've been in a relationship before, you should be able to learn, like make yourself learn from those relationships. Don't sit there when, you break up or whatever, and you're going to sit there just depressed. And that's all you got out of the relationship after it was over. Sit down, think about it. What did you like? What did you not like? What areas did you need to grow in? What did you do wrong? How did that person push your buttons? Why are there buttons to be pressed? Those are areas for you to work on. Those are things that you need to look at and you need to see, okay, let's work on this. Mm-hmm. Let me know what I'm looking for, because then I know not to settle for less than that. I know not to settle for someone who's still growing in those areas, and he could be somebody good for somebody else. So, oh, somebody, he said he went to school with you, James. Max 24. I don't know.
Max. What school did you go to, Max?
But,
Max, I knew a Max. Say the school. I'm not gonna say the school. You say the school.
Let me see. Hold on 1 second.
Wait.
Give me 1 second.
Man, y'all need to chill, bro. I know everybody in quarantine, but good grief. Max, what school you went to? I think you put it.
Hold on.
Oh, there's it. We can do it after.
But yeah, just okay.
I did know a Max, but anyway, yeah, like you were saying. Well, the point is that if I remember what she, go ahead.
Oh,
I was saying, okay, but you got to say the school, Max. Leave it there. I'm gonna talk to him. All right, but anyway, go ahead. What were you saying?
Well, I was just gonna say, going back to the people who are together and have been together, and they say that they love the person that they're with, and they've been with the person and they're committed to the person, but they just don't want to get married. It's like you already say that you love them. It's like then it goes to a faith thing. It's like you don't question a chair before you sit in it. You sit in it.
You do.
And now if that chair gives you a reason to be a little afraid, then okay.
Yeah.
But you just go about your day, and you need a chair, you come and you sit down. Now if you already have that chair in your house, you know that it's steady. You know that it's not gonna let you fall. So if you've been in a relationship with somebody, you know the person. You know how they are. You love how they are. You said you love them. So then what's the problem? You already got the faith in them enough to be with them and live with them and work on your problems together. Then what's the problem? Just put a ring on it. Put a ring on it. That's all you gotta do.
Yeah.
Beyonce said it.
You already have that faith in that person enough to know that what they are and if they're gonna be with you. And you already have those conversations saying, I'm not gonna leave you or for anybody, and we're gonna make this work. So why can't you make it work in marriage? You're already doing everything already. Yeah. Just make it work.
And our mom said something yesterday that like stays in my head. You learn two things from everybody. You learn something good, and you learn something bad. You learn what to do and what not to do. So it's like when you meet somebody, you see, okay, well, they did this and this was successful in their life. I look at my dad, I see that, he was successful in certain areas because he did certain things. So I do that. I do those things. And I'm like, okay, if he was successful in it, why don't I give it a try? And if it doesn't work for me, then I look to somebody else. I look to my uncles. I look to my cousins. I look to somebody else who were successful in that area. And I do the same thing. But then I also look at those people and I see what not to do. What did they do that messed up something that, that they weren't successful in? So then I take that and I say, all right, well, I shouldn't do this.
Yeah.
So I look at those, when I look at other people, I see that thing. Then I examine myself. What am I doing that's the same as them? What am I doing that's the bad thing that they're doing that I shouldn't do? What am I not doing that's the good thing that they're doing? So when going into a relationship is a faith walk anyway.
Yeah.
So a lot of people, anyway, it's a faith walk to be in a relationship because you're holding faith that this person is going also believes that you're for them and they're for you. So you're already walking in it, not knowing anything. Then you're making a commitment to continue with this thought apart from one another for longer than 5 years.
Oh yeah.
So I'm like, if it goes longer than 5, like I said, this is just my own personal belief that longer than 5 years is too long, because a person being in college takes 4 years, and then an extra year for them to get themselves settled. Then you can do it, if they want to move forward. So that's why I have that 5-year mark. But any time longer than that, you should be having a job. You should be, doing something, doing something with your life that works.
Right here, look, a piece of paper just completely got rid of people's existence.
Right. But
Right.
You should be doing something. You should be doing something with your life. That's why I have that 5-year mark. So I'm saying anything longer than that time is too long. And so if you've been in a bad relationship, and this is two reasons that I find why people don't get married. It's one,
Okay.
you've been in a relationship. Well, actually, no. Number one is either your parents or someone or too many people you knew got divorced.
Okay.
And because you see so much divorce, the value of marriage is not present. The joys of marriage, the heartaches and pains, and then the overcoming of those heartaches and pains of marriage, you don't see. And I guarantee you, like, the reason why we value marriage is because we've seen it. We've seen the arguments. We've seen the beautiful dates. We've seen, like, the good and the bad.
Mm-hmm.
Point blank period. We've seen both. And we see that the underlining is that when a person is dating, it doesn't, and this is one thing, you're officially lying to yourself if you just continue to say, well, I don't want marriage and blah, 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 and you're in a relationship. Look, all the time, even in the movies that you like, that's how the movie ends. Because it starts off with, well, I didn't want that. But then when you actually get into it and you are actually working on it and you see the value in one another, you're like, how can we take this higher? Okay, we can take this higher by, all right, well, in the world, we'll live together. Then even in that situation, how can we take this higher?
Yeah.
We get married. So whether you're saved and believe in Jesus Christ or unsaved, how can we take this higher always gets to the level of marriage. There's still that hope of, I want to commit myself to you. I want to give myself to you. And the best way that God, who created heaven and earth, gave us is marriage.
Oh yeah.
And it's whether you believe in Jesus Christ or not.
That's true.
Because whether you believe in God or not, and we do, I believe that Jesus Christ is who he says he is. When he created marriage, it doesn't matter if you're saved or not.
Right.
You get married, God blesses your marriage. Now, there's always a speculation of going into a deeper conversation on what we constitute as constitutional marriage. But, if you believe in the Bible, we don't have to go into that. But what I'm saying is still, it depends that staying together and dating for a long time, and then another conversation goes dating several people at a time,
mm-hmm.
always ends with, I have this hope to be with this person. And if I truly love them, then I want to continue to give. And then marriage is like that ultimate thing that there's this lady Marty quoted. I don't remember the lady's name, but the quote was like stuck in my head. The commitment is, I do you, you do me, we don't do nobody else.
Oh yeah, Melody Fabian.
Yeah.
She told us that. Yeah, she was talking about marriage.
Yes, I'm like, that quote is true, because it's this right here. Nobody can come. There's nobody in between. Like people in church say that joy is there's nothing between Jesus and you. So if you look at that marriage is just an example of God and his people. that there should be nothing between you and your significant other, your spouse. There should be nothing there. So if people who are doing that in just dating, like even when you're in high school, you see when I would go, for example, a girl that I liked in high school, I see her holding another guy's hand, my heart breaks. I'm like, no, that's not supposed to happen. It's supposed to be you, me, you, me, you.
Okay. Okay. What is love?
Oh my God.
But it's supposed to be that. So even as a young age, like even like kindergarten and stuff, you like somebody, you see them with somebody else, it hurts. So then what do? You're like, okay, well, I need to not be that type of person, and I need to find somebody who's not like that either. So then it becomes a work that now we're going to stay together, hold tight together, and then why not do it in marriage? That's what I'm point.
And I would say also going back to your point of the people saying to me, people that they know getting divorced.
Mm-hmm.
I would say, like he was just saying, it's a work thing. You are not them, and they are not you.
Oh.
They didn't have the strength and the capacity to work on their marriage enough to stay together. But that don't have to be you.
No.
If you love somebody, you claim you love them and you want to be with them, and you've got situations in your relationship that are happening that's straining on what you have, it doesn't have to go to divorce. It doesn't have to end in like breaking apart. You have to put yourself on a work level that's so high to where I gotta do what I gotta do at the end of the day. If you said that you love this person, then it has to be a mutual work. You want it to last, it has to be worked on. You have to put the time, the energy, the patience into talking things out, working things out, getting to know what's the problem, what is the problem, and how can we together find the solution. It's not just just if something bad happens, it's going to end in divorce just like everybody else. No, you're not everybody else, and you have to realize that. Yeah. I am who I am, and this person who I love is who they are, and that's it. It's nobody else. You're your example. Be your example.
Be your example.
Yeah,
that's good.
And although Meridith herself is not married, she has lived in a house. She has 9 siblings. They together have 8 siblings. Okay, they have watched their parents be married and stay married for almost 30 years.
Going on 30 years.
And
almost 30 years.
They still go on dates.
They still go on
right
dates.
now.
They work on their marriage. They will work on their issues. They'll rejoice together. They'll be sad together. They comfort one another. And that's what a marriage is. It's not always going to be the most pleasant thing. Being in a family is not the most pleasant thing.
It's not.
Having friends is not the most pleasant
thing. Even as a single person, it's not always a cakewalk just being there with your parents and your siblings and your nieces and nephews and stuff. It's not always easy having friends. You have arguments. You have things you have to get over. You have things you have to call each other out on. And it's a process, and all of relationships take work. They all do. And if it doesn't take any work, you're not really, I don't know what kind of relationship that is. So, that's something that, although she hasn't been in a marriage herself, she has seen it, and she's seen other people. She's seen people not put in the work for their marriage and lose their marriage because they were refusing to apologize when they were wrong. They were refusing to communicate when they had an issue with something. You have to be open and honest. We have been married we've been married about 2 years. Okay. And we what do you call it? You threw me off. We've been married about 2 years.
Yes.
Amen. And we've
had
situations where we
it took me
I have
a
to
second.
think about what I'm about to say.
Basically,
we've had our situations where we've had arguments. We've
had some real arguments.
We've had some real ugly arguments. Okay, but at the end of the day, I still know that I love my husband, and he still knows that he loves me. And we still know that we want to continue to build a future together because we laid a foundation. When we were dating, we decided we're going to be honest with each other. We're not going to be fake. We're not going to, usually when people are dating, they act really fake, and usually it's because people are trying, they're trying to present you with this is who I am. But this is the best part of who I am. I'm not going to show you the crack screen, the other side. I'm not going to show you that side of me because I'm trying to impress you right now. I told him, you know what? I don't have time for that. You're going to get to know me for who I really am. Also, I have a list for you. There are these 10 people that I know who know my life story. You go ahead and you give them a call and you ask them who I really am.
Yep.
I was already friends with him. I was already in the business. I knew his business. Okay, but he didn't really know mine. So I gave him the information so he would know the business. He had my parents' number. He had my best friend's number. He had my mentor's number. And the people that didn't answer the phone, he left the voicemails. He called all of them. Okay. And the thing about the list that he was bringing up earlier was that I was talking to someone when I was in grad school and was talking to them about my desire to get married. And I'll reiterate, it's not bad to desire to get married. It's not bad to desire children. It's only bad if you are idolizing it and allowing it to take first place in your life over other things that you could be thinking about. I told them about my desire to get married. And what they told me was, you know what? Write down a list of the things that are deal breakers for you, things that you require in a spouse in order for you to have a successful relationship, things that if this thing is not present, you're not going to be able to make it. So I did that. And I think I had made a list before. It was like maybe 10, 15, 20 things. There could be hundreds of things that you're looking for and you don't know that you're looking for them until you're in the situation. My list turned out to be about 33 things that were pretty much they were deal breakers. I think only one of them was like this is more like a preference thing. I'm not talking about they have to be 6 feet tall and have blonde hair and blue eyes and they have to be muscular and they have to be
not superficial.
Yes. So I wasn't looking at superficial things. I was looking at things like what I was mentioning earlier. How are they with their friends? What kinds of things do they talk about? Do they change the way they are depending on what friend group they're with? Do they like children? Because I want to have children. Do they like children? Are they good with children? Do they desire to have children?
Because there are people who like children who are terrible.
Yes. And being terrible with children, you can still learn. Like, do you want to be good with children? Yes. Are you open to being like taught and learning over life?
And it's not bad if you don't want that because there are people who don't want it too. So, you can find somebody who's just like you and there you go.
Yeah. And that's important. So, those are things that I put on that list. I put those things down and I said, okay, you know what? The only superficial, it wasn't really that superficial, but kind of was the age thing. Because I personally was like, I'm not dating a guy that's more than 2 years younger than me, and I'm not going more than 4 years older than me. Because I'm on like a certain wavelength in my maturity, and I need somebody who's gonna match me. And I don't want to have to be over here trying to lift up somebody whose personality is like I'm 12. And I don't want to have to feel like I need to catch up to somebody who's in a much different place in life. So, what ended up happening was we were already friends, but 5 years ago, I don't know. We started to get like closer as friends, and I started to see him in a different light, but I was like, nah, I don't think so because of the age thing. And then I could tell he was liking me, but I was like, nah, that's okay. I wasn't. Yeah, I wasn't trying to do that. But then, just after some time, I just heard it was just something within myself that was like, why not? Why are you not giving him a chance? This age thing is literally the only thing. And I went and I pulled up the document that I had on my laptop, and it was my list of the 33 things. And I also had it somewhere else, but I can't talk about it because he still doesn't know about it because he don't be reading the stuff I give him.
You ain't gotta mention that.
I do gotta mention
completely
that.
different thing.
But anyway, yes. So I pulled up the list and I was looking through everything, and excuse me, he literally was like 32 out of the 33 things. So he is a little bit younger than 2 years. I'm not gonna say how many, but he is a little bit younger than 2 years.
Oh my God.
Okay. Now you look like you're 12.
Right.
Okay.
Anyway.
Goodbye. But yeah, so the age gap was literally the only thing on my list, and like it ended up not really being a deal breaker because he just happened to be more mature for his age. So it was still like within the bounds of what I needed, because what I needed wasn't necessarily the age range. It was the maturity that I was looking for. It was the maturity level to match mine, and we were on the same wavelength. So that ended up working out for us, and we were able to work a lot of things out early on in our relationship. When we were just dating, we were able to have a lot of open and honest conversations up front. We talked about everything. We talked about our families. We talked about our expectations. We knew that marriage was something that both of us had in mind for like the end result of any relationship that we would be in.
I told her straight up, I was created to be married. I said, I'm not, and I say that because I knew that when I was like 6, I was like, I was looking at the women at the time like, I want to marry you. Like, you like, mama. Like legit, I was sitting there giving rings to people at 12 years old because I'm like, I want to follow what Beyonce said. If you like it, put a ring on it. But anyway.
Okay.
But like I knew what I wanted. I knew what I wanted first. Like, so I didn't date a lot of people when I was younger, when I was in high school and even in college. I didn't date a lot of people. I wasn't going through dating people and stuff because I knew what I wanted. And though I, had a chance with a lot of beautiful women, but I'm like, I don't see marriage with you. So in my mind, if I don't see marriage, then I don't see us.
Right.
And I don't want no fling. I want marriage. So yeah.
Go ahead. I think I forgot. What were you saying? I literally just forgot what I was going to say.
What was I saying?
Yeah, you were saying.
Oh, I was saying that was created for marriage.
Right. Oh, there you go. I remember. Okay. I was just gonna say that basically, to what he was saying of knowing what you want. With people who are like in the relationships and they're not like, oh, they don't know if they want to get married or whatever. You need to know who you are first. You need to know what you want, because like we were saying before, that will not waste a lot of your time. If you already know who you are, what your expectations are, what you want from life, if you know that, then you don't have a problem. But there's so many people that they don't know who they are or what they're looking for or what they want, and then they want to get in all these relationships and then just waste so much time and don't even know what they're doing, but they're just in relationships. I'm sorry, but if you don't know who you are, what you want, and what you want out of life, then you don't get a relationship. You don't need one. You need to figure out yourself first.
Yeah.
You need to get yourself right.
Yeah.
Then you can go somewhere and find someone and be with someone. But you don't need to be trying to have a relationship if you don't even know what you're doing.
And the thing about it is, it's about time, people. Honestly, what it comes down to is time. It's time, that the little time we have. What was I just watching? I was watching the show Community, because it's a really funny show. And a quote on there when Pierce's mom passed away. You remember he was listening to the CD. Well, she said on there like the whole reason why people even like care about living is because of how short of time that we're given to do it. If we knew that we had 500 years on this life on this planet to live, if we were promised 500 years, you could do all this dumb stuff you wanted to do. You could legit just waste time, waste whole decades sitting around doing nothing because you knew, okay, around year 300 I'll actually start paying attention. Or around year 250 I'll actually do something. Some people around year 400 I'll actually start making something. But because we don't even know if we're able to live to 50, we don't know if I'm 27. I just forgot how old I am. However old I am, I just forgot.
27 this year.
Oh, yeah. So I'm about to be 27. And okay. All right, chill. Like I'm 27. I don't even know if I just said it again. I'm about to be 27. I don't even know if I'll make it to my 27th birthday. I don't even know when I get to the 27th birthday if I'll make it to 28. I don't know. So because I don't know if I'll make it to tomorrow. And because we have such short time span, we do things. We value relationships. We value friendships. We value work. We value television shows. We value games. We value these things because we want to have these experiences while we're still living. We value people, and when they pass away, that saddens us because they're not living with us anymore. So it's like we hold these values. So it saddens me when I see friends and family members who get into relationships they knew from the start was not going to be anything. It's like they knew, but just because they wanted to have sex with that person, that's why they got into the relationship. And it's like if sex is all that you get out of a relationship, you need to get out of that relationship.
Yeah, the Bible says it's better to marry than to burn, but if literally you have to use wisdom with that. So you have to already be in a relationship where you want to cherish that person. You want to build a future with that person. Then if you feel like you're gonna burn because y'all can't hold back on your urges and stuff, get married. Okay, it's like everybody's gonna have that desire at some point, but you have to determine, is that the only desire I have? Or if they get pregnant because man plus woman plus sex equals baby, if they get pregnant, or if you get pregnant, you're not gonna want to keep it, or you're not gonna want to stay in the relationship, or now there's gonna be issues. Like you have to use discernment, and that the Lord gave us discernment. He gave us the Holy Ghost so that we have discernment to think about our situations. We shouldn't have to be falling into premarital sex. We shouldn't have to be falling into doing all of these other behaviors that are really detrimental to a relationship, cohabitating and whatever. They have been proven to be detrimental to the relationship. Okay. The other thing is that the question that I put in the description, or the phrase that I kept hearing, marriage is too big of a commitment. And I said half the time, a lot of these couples already have kids. Having children is a bigger commitment than getting married. Why? Because even if you get married and you get divorced, you still have that child until the day you die, Lord willing, if nothing happens to the child before you die. Okay? You are stuck with the responsibility, and I say stuck lightly because children are a blessing, but parents will tell you, otherwise sometimes they be irritating. But you have that responsibility on you. You are left with that responsibility for the rest of your life. The Lord hates divorce, and we should feel the same way. We should hate it. It shouldn't be a fun thing to get divorced. It shouldn't be the first option. But you can leave a person. You cannot stop being a child's parent. You are the parent.
Even when you leave out of the parent and the child's life, that child is still wanting to know who that parent is.
That child still bears your image.
So it's still
how, like the Lord wants us to be in
parent.
relationship with Him. We bear His image. Like we are supposed to have that connection to Him. We're supposed to be in relationship with Him. That's the way it should be. So that's the one thing. You like how I just will never understand that phrase of this is too big a commitment, but we got kids together. That's no.
Because you have to still deal with them.
You still have to deal with them, but like even the people that don't, even the people that say, I'm gonna close the door and you can't, like, you're irresponsible, I'm not gonna let you see the child, blah blah blah, whatever. Even the people who close the door and raise the children on their own, that child is with them forever.
It's still there.
Okay. A negligent parent, that's like a whole other topic. Okay. We're not even talking about that. We're talking about in a responsible situation. Having the child is the bigger commitment than getting married. Getting married is serious.
Okay? It is a serious thing. Like, it is not to be taken lightly.
But I think of it like, just like how you wake up in the morning and you brush your teeth and you have to take a shower and you have to go to work or to school. And it's part of the process of how you go about your day. Getting married is part of the process about how you go in your life. It's part of the steps. And, there are some people that the Lord has given that, they're not to be married. And that's something that the Lord will give that person discernment. But if you know that God is not calling you to that lifestyle, that's what we're talking about. Don't waste the other person's time. If you get married, you are blessing that person. If something were to happen to you, that person is taken care of. By the way, get life insurance. If something happens to you, I'm saying because people have life insurance is so cheap, and the benefits are so awesome. Okay.
But we getting ourselves set up with all this stuff, and I told Marty, I was like, man, if I die tomorrow, because like I said, we're getting it set up. I was like, if I die tomorrow, I got $3 in my wallet right now, and you can have. That's not good. So that's why I'm like, we're getting it set up.
But guess what? If you die tomorrow, that $3, if we weren't married, that I couldn't even get that $3 in your wallet.
That's true. It'd go to my mom.
I have no benefits. Okay. And that's you.
I just want to say, people say YOLO for the dumbest stuff. True. Okay. The dumbest things.
Yeah.
Why not YOLO for marriage? Why not?
You only live once. Let's do it one time the wrong way.
They say it for so many dumb things. Why not get married? You're already there. You're already there.
And that's our whole point is because our topic started off with people who've been in relationships for longer than 5 years. And the example was the couple Meredith brought up. They were together for 14 or 15 years. And so the question is just that you're committing yourself to one another. You're not just throwing your money around. You're not seeing other people. You're not living in 5 different places. You're living with the same person, doing marital things, looking at one another's finance. That's a marital thing.
Yeah.
If we were just dating and living with one another, you ain't about to look at my finance. You ain't my wife. But because we're living in the same house, that's a requirement. Because she needs to know what money is coming in and out.
Together. You're building your house.
You're building something. And that's the thing. Like, you're building. You're not just together just to be together. You're together because it works. And you see that what you all are building, there's a flow. We're saying, why not be in a situation where you're also blessed?
Yeah.
Because you already see that there's a flow. You already see that you work together. You already love it. The love is there.
Yeah.
It just needs to be official. An official proclamation. And this is one thing. I have yet to find And women out there, you can disagree with it. I'm talking about with my life experience. I've yet to find a female who does not want marriage. I've yet to find it.
I know some.
Well, I'm saying this that you're in a relationship and you don't see marriage. That like you might start off with, well, as a single person, nah. But then when you start dating a person, you start seeing yourself in white. And the women that I've seen and befriended, they always see themselves in white. And I'm like, if that's the case, and I'm not saying that's the case for all women. I'm not saying that at all. I'm not putting the general statement. I'm just talking about for those who I've seen. I'm saying if that's the case, if you see yourself walking down the aisle with your father or father figure, walking you down the aisle to this man that you've been with, or men, you see yourself standing there with, or you might eventually see yourself standing there with the woman walking down the aisle towards you. If you can see that with this person, why waste another 5 years not doing that? Because let me tell you something. There's always the option of eloping. But also when it comes down to having like a really big wedding, I was like, low key, all right, if we do this wedding, like, I don't want us to go broke, walk away from the wedding and I ain't got no money. And she ain't got no money. So we about to be sitting in this young brown cardboard box on the side of the road saying hello and goodbye to every car that drives by. So I'm like, well, how can we make this work? And so what we did was it was our wedding was what is it called? Well, yeah, it was a joint effort, but I'm saying like
it was like
we didn't pay for everything.
Yeah, well,
our parents didn't pay for everything.
Puerto Rican.
It was like
I'm half Puerto Rican, and we have a tendency to, like, when we're doing cotillions, when we're doing big weddings and stuff like that, we'll tell our friends and family we're getting married, we're doing a cotillion. Who wants to be a padrino or a madrina? That's like a sponsor, somebody that wants to, help pay for something. So we have people pay for flowers, we have people pay for the cake, we have people pay for the stuff that we did with the rehearsal dinner. We went bowling. We had decorations. We had caterers. We had photography. We had a videographer. We had all types of stuff. And we had a candy table. We had all types of stuff. We had servers for the food. We had
a lot of stuff.
Yes. And people came and they still blessed us on our wedding day with additional gifts and money.
Band.
Our registry, a full band,
singers,
a praise team. Yes. And
we danced.
Yeah. I mean, like, it was just an awesome time, and we left that wedding with no debt because people were happy to give to us. And that's the thing, when people see that you're in a right relationship with God and with the person that you're with, they want to bless you. People want to see you get married. So the people that don't really want to get married, usually it's because they've seen people publicly display the mistakes that they're making in their marriage. And that's one thing, is discretion. Because you're supposed to use discretion as a believer. You're not supposed to be out there telling everybody about every argument you have, because that's between you and your spouse. Your best friend doesn't need to know about all the arguments, especially not be all up in your business about the arguments and be all up in your spouse's face. Your family, you don't need to call your children and your family and your cousins and especially not your parents, to put your spouse in a negative light to your parents' faces. Okay, you don't call your spouse's parents and family to complain about them, because most of the time they're already going to be on the spouse's side. You're supposed to work that out together. You're supposed to work that out with God. You're supposed to work that out with your counselor. You're supposed to work that out through prayer and fasting and reading and studying the scriptures. You're supposed to use your accountability couple.
Yeah, about to say, and a couple who's been there. Glad you said.
Who's been there and got through it. If you're always going to be displaying all the ugly sides of your marriage to everybody, nobody's going to want to get married. they're not going to want it. It's not going to look beautiful to them. Marriage is beautiful. It's a representation of Christ and the church. It's a beautiful thing. And
the sad thing about our generation, when I say generation, I want to say from now until like the past 200 years, like those generations. The sad thing is that the negative side of marriage, the bad stuff, has been pushed to light and has been the only thing that you see. So when you think about marriage, when you hear marriage, all you automatically think is bad stuff. You automatically think that. Oh, I don't want to get married because I am not going to be independent. What do you need? Well, then why be in a relationship? Because if you're in a relationship dedicating yourself to another person, if just being in a relationship, you have to still keep to yourself and that one person without being married. You have to still do that. Because if you don't, then that person is not going to want to be with you if they see you with everybody. So it automatically starts off there, that you've already committed that I'm going to keep myself only for you. That's marriage 101. And then for people who get married, not just because of adultery, but people who get divorced because of adultery, but there's also the side of people who get divorced just because it's not fun. The spark is gone. At my job, what are the fire in the stove called? The pilot lights. There's a kitchen at my job where when we do patrols, we have to walk through that kitchen and make sure that the pilot light is on. If we find that the light is off, we make a report, call the people. They have to come immediately and turn it back on. Immediately. What am I saying? If the spark is gone, ignite it.
Yeah.
Don't just say, "Oh, it's gone," and there's just nothing I can do. And ignite it. There's
you call it family life. Got the Weekend to Remember conference.
If you saved or not,
all types of churches got conferences and fun marriage cruises. Go on a vacation. Go on living social and find yourself an escape. Go somewhere. Go to Sybaris. Go somewhere.
Just go to a hotel.
Right. I would say it don't even take that much. Go find a hotel near you. Like just decorate it up. Do something.
Throw rose petals on the bed. Right. Get the jacuzzi suite. Go to the hot tub. Get a nice little robe, a fuzzy robe. Get some slippers.
I'm like this. Okay.
Video games.
There are so many examples in the church of good marriages. Like we like to point out the bad marriages, but I've seen more good examples of marriage than bad. Let me first say that. And then with not only that, Hollywood has made so many movies of what a really good date looks like without spending any money.
Yeah. They went on a picnic in the park.
When Michael Scott asked Holly to marry him, he went and found all these random candles and put it up, and he had the friends in his office stand there and ask her, "Will you marry me?" It was just something funny that he knew she would find funny for all of them to do.
But he spent 3 years' salary on that ring.
Oh yeah, 3 years salary on the ring, but everything else was set up because he had friends.
He spent the most important money on her.
Exactly. So, but he had friends who was there to support him. He had just crazy ideas or whatever that didn't cost any money. So my point is, what's her or his favorite show? Look on that show, do something that there was a wife that set up for her husband a birthday. It was an office birthday. Just when this whole quarantine happened, she had him a little office birthday, and he just came in and just bawled, just started crying because she knew he loved that.
A candle labeled Serenity by Jan. She had the Dunder Mifflin DM Does GB hat. Something like that.
It was something like that.
It was like she had all this
office stuff that when
it
you
is your
walked
birthday
in,
period with the brown and silver balloons hanging with some streamer from the ceiling.
And even Pinterest has like little ideas that you can put together stuff. And I'm telling you, like, this woman in Pinterest, when it comes down to like putting stuff together, she goes on there and finds the craziest thing and just makes a birthday party magnificent. She told me like 3 birthday parties. And so like,
but it doesn't cost that.
It doesn't cost that much. She'll be like, can you give me $30 and throw like a $500 party? And it's like, that's it. So I'm like, find something that the person likes and
run with it.
Like watch a show together. Do something that you all both like. So
cook together.
So don't just look at the negative side of stuff. Because if you just look at the negative side, then if you look at the negative side of family, you won't love your mom, you won't love your dad. You won't love your siblings if you have any. You won't love your friends. You look at the negative side of friends, they could be lying to you the whole time they're talking. They could be cheating with your significant other behind your back. They could be telling people your business. That's only supposed to stay between you and that person. Look at all the negative side of being friends. You won't have any friends. So the same goes for marriage. If you keep looking at the negatives, the divorce rate is this, and inside and outside of the church, there's arguments all the time. Look, there's only one couple I met in my entire life.
I don't think the divorce rate accounts for people that have gotten remarried.
That's true. It doesn't. I don't think it does. But there's only one couple that I know in my life that said their testimony was, we've never argued a day in our marriage. That anytime there was a problem, they would walk up to one another and would say, we need to talk about this situation. And they sat down and had an open and honest conversation, and they went on, and they've been married 30 plus years. That only one couple. And I know so many married couples who are just so loving. Even I have 2 friends from college who got married last year. They are the most loving and lovable people I know. They are just so, they're just so loving and lovable that that's all I can say. But they got together and became a power couple and became the over loving and lovable couple together. And even them, I walked up to them, was like, have y'all had y'all argument yet? They were like, yep.
Yeah.
So it's like, you can have arguments in marriage. Arguments are because you're still learning. And arguments is that I believe something, you believe something, and they're clashing. That's what it is.
I care about something.
Yes, I care about something. You care about something. There's a clashing. Or you're not seeing my side of this, so we clash. That's what the argument is. It's gonna happen. It happens in family. It happens with friends. It happens at work. My God, it happens in a marriage.
Yeah.
So if you just keep looking at the negative side, like, I don't want to get married because I don't want to get divorced. Well, then like you got into a relationship.
You go to high school because you don't want to drop out. Like, you go to high school and you do your best to make sure you don't drop out.
Yes, you do the work it takes for you not to get dropped out or not to get kicked out. And it's like when you started dating, you did the work it takes to not break up.
Or people who don't want to learn how to cook because they don't want to burn the recipe. It's like, you're gonna make mistakes, but you eventually learn how to do it and do it well.
You just got to get to the right skill. If you get to the
skill
level,
level 8,
you like first level, you're gonna burn some stuff
because you don't know how.
Exactly. Okay. Get to level 5, you good, you Gucci.
Also, I don't remember where I got this information from, but apparently, and those of you who are like the science nerds can follow up on this part, but I had read somewhere that there's a part of your frontal lobe that does not finish developing until you're in some whatever part of your 20s. But that when you get married younger, because I'm a big advocate for people to get married young, not just because they're young, but if they're like ready to get married and they have the maturity and the responsibility and the wisdom, and God is calling them to get married. I do believe in young marriage. I don't believe in waiting until you're, 45, 65, 75 to start getting married.
Our ancestors did.
I mean, and I'm a supporter. I'm a supporter of young people getting married. But there's a part of your frontal lobe that if you're married younger and you are you're living together with your spouse and you're married, that part of your frontal lobe, I think it develops better, or it develops like faster when you're in a committed marriage relationship. So that's something that's going to help you as far as your maturity and the way you handle things and the way, it's like people that are a lot older, they say they don't want to get married because they've lived their whole life being single and being able to do whatever they want. They get used to doing things their own way. And when two people have their own way of doing things and then they try getting married, it's really easy for them to want to get a divorce because they have made themselves stick to their way. That's part of that development. If you are early on developing your life together with someone, that you can only build on that. So also, I'm a supporter of starting off with small, like the Bible says, don't despise humble beginnings. Right? I forgot where that is. Don't despise them. Let me look that up real quick because I do want to give the reference.
Look it up, you keep going.
No, I'm gonna look it up. That's fine. Thank you. No, I wanna pull it up. It's in Zechariah 4:10. That's New Living Translation, but that's the first one that came up in my results. It says, "Do not despise these small beginnings, for the Lord rejoices to see the work begin, to see blah blah blah, whatever else it says." But like, it not to despise humble beginnings. Okay, 4:10. 4:10. Okay, you got it.
Or who hath despised the day of the small things?
Louder.
Oh, for who hath despised the day of small things? For they shall rejoice and shall see the plummet in the hand of Zerubbabel with those seven. They are the eyes of the Lord. They are the eyes of the Lord, which run to and fro through the whole earth.
Yeah, so we shouldn't despise humble beginnings. And I know the context of that verse is to talk about something else, but the point of even just that part of it, like, not to despise humble beginnings.
It starts off small.
You don't have to have a mortgage on a big, like 2, 3, 4 bedroom house. You don't have to have a car that you've already paid for, like completely paid off, and all of this stuff before you get married. I believe that when a couple starts off with their humble beginnings and they build together, they have an appreciation. They can turn around and look back and see all of the things that they have worked on together over the course of their marriage. And they can't say, well, I did this and I did this and I did this. We did this together. We started with this humble beginning and we built it into this empire that we call our marriage and our family and our children. And it's a legacy that we've built and that we can pass on. And I've never been one to think that I have to have everything all together, as far as having material, big possessions and all of these other types of milestones. I do believe we have to have it together to some degree, that we are working, that we have a financial plan and we have a vision and we know what our gifts are and we know where the Lord's calling us. But as far as some of those other lesser important things that, they become more important as time goes on, those are things you can build together and you have more appreciation when you have built them together.
And even when you're in a marriage, another thing that something to look towards is, what are you doing to build your house? Like, you personally, if I'm working a job to pay our bills and things like that, but I'm also doing things on the side for us to not worry about, well, did this get, do we have enough money to pay this bill? Do we have enough this? Madi is doing things, you know, that that will help us in the long run. That's what I'm saying. Like, what are we doing that's helping us? What are we doing that can help our finances, that can help our relationship, that when we have children, we can give to our children? Like, what are we learning together? And then what are we doing? What is something that we can do that we can bring back home and say, look at what we have? You know,
Are you giving into your home?
yes. So it's like, so you're not working a job just because you got to go work a 9 to 5 and it gets boring. And since now you have to do this thing of work at 9 to 5, you get distracted from why you even have the job. And then things at home start stressing you out. So then you go out and do something bad. So it's like
children. Are you making sure you have time to get away with just yourselves and be together and build into your marriage, so that when your children grow up and move out of the house and you're left alone by yourselves, you're not left with a stranger?
So it's things to work on. And when we say work, we're not saying stress. Because all work, no, I'm saying sometimes it could be stress, but all work doesn't need to be stressful. Because if, like I said, when it comes down to like having fun, that's your responsibility to set it up. If you like a sport, if you and your spouse, instead of walking around your neighborhood, go stay at a hotel somewhere and walk around that neighborhood. Go to the mall. You like to walk. Or if you all like to watch TV, sit down and eat food and watch TV. You like to just sit down and learn about one another. Find places other than just one place. Like, we like to sit down and eat food.
We sure do.
We chill here we chill in our kitchen, eat food. We sit in our living room, eat food.
We try new restaurants.
We go to new restaurants. We'll have friends over and cook for them. That's something we like to do. We like to try new things. So it's like, go above and beyond just the normal things. And so it's like, the bad reason for not getting married is an excuse. And what it comes down to is fear. You need to get rid of that fear.
What are some good reasons for not getting married?
Some good reasons? Okay. Well, you might be the type of person that you have not had a lot of good relationships. In the past, you might have had bad relationships. So you're now in a new relationship and you don't want to, with being in a long relationship, I'm just saying in general, you don't want to run into those same situations. So if you get married, you might be stuck with what you experienced that was bad. So you're like, well, now I have to be in this situation. So that's one. Another one is, the person might not be marriage material, but you dated them for 8 years. So if that's the case,
you might not be married material.
Right. I'm just saying.
They might be ready to get married. You have to be honest with yourself.
Really, it comes down to who you are and who they are. That's ultimately, like, even to give a specific list on it. If you want a longer list, go to Weekend to Remember. They'll give you all the lists. But
CBN is good too with that. Christian Bible Network.
I was about to say CBN. Okay, but yeah, CBN. There are books on on this stuff, but what it ultimately comes down to is who you are and who they are. Are you willing to submit? Are they willing to submit? And when we say submit, even when the church says submit, like, wives, submit to your husbands, husbands, love your wives, we don't mean my foot is on her neck saying, do what I say to do.
I wish you would.
We mean like I know who I am and I know what I've done in my life. And if it does not make this work, I need to stop.
The husband is the priest of the home, right? He's the leader of the tribe, to put it that way. A true leader does not have to come in your face and tell you, I'm the leader. I'm the leader. I'm the leader. You know why? Because if they're a leader, they just lead. And you see that they're a leader and you submit to their leadership.
That's it.
It's the same way. Any kind of leader. You don't have to throw your title in somebody's face to prove that that's your title. He doesn't have to say, well, I'm the man of the house. I'm the husband. And you're my wife. You have to submit to me. You have to do what I say. He has to lead. He's never said that to me.
I've never said that.
Never. Even in our arguments, he's never said that to me. Because, sometimes, say stuff when you're arguing, you get mad.
You say some bogus stuff.
He has never.
Because I don't believe that. I'm like this. At the end of the day, we have to do what God tells us to do.
He has to love me like Christ loved the church. And I have to submit to him as the church submits to Christ.
And there are some times when we have to remind one another, okay, this is what it comes down to. There's no wavering from this. And that's what we have to do in our marriage. There are people who are having those kinds of conversations who aren't married. Now, here's a good example. Here are good examples. And we talked about it.
Don't submit to your boyfriend either. That's not your husband. Don't be submitted.
Yeah, the Bible doesn't say girlfriend submit to your boyfriend.
Not at all.
It says
not even
wives submit to your husbands and husbands love your wives.
Also, you're single until you're married.
A lot of problems is that we're in positions that's not ours. We're doing the work and in positions that's not ours to do.
Yeah.
And that's what a lot of people always run into. It's like, the girlfriend, if she's feeling like this independent woman, but she's dating you, y'all living together, been together for a long time, and then you tell her, well, you need to do this and blah, 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 blah. She ain't got to listen to a word you say. You know that? She ain't got to listen to a word you say because you're not in a position that's not yours. And for you to say, well, do what I say, that's not your job.
And if he's talking to you like that, that's a red flag. That's a red flag. And
but I'm just saying, I'm saying yes, but the jobs that's for a husband, and there are jobs that are meant for husbands. There are jobs that are meant for wives. And what I'm seeing a lot of times is boyfriend and girlfriends doing those jobs. And I'm like,
and then getting mad when they're doing it wrong.
Exactly. And it's like, no. That's not your position. That's not. Okay, so we talk about all this negative stuff. But on the positive side, or actually all of this has been positive, really.
It really has.
We've just
been, going back and forth.
Yeah.
It just feels negative because we have to talk about it.
We
can't just say, get married, guys. It's great. We love each other.
We do. But we're human too.
We're complex beings.
So there's this couple I know. The wife came to our church when I can tell. Came to my church, my dad's church. He's a pastor. She came to our church when, this was years ago. She came to our church and she was not saved at the time. But then she got saved. Now, what the problem that ended up happening was that she had a boyfriend that she was living with before she got saved. So my dad sat her and the boyfriend down because they started coming to our church. So he sat them down and said, look, the way that you all are shows me that you all love each other a lot. However, you're not married. And God honors marriage above all else. So you all being together and loving one another is a great thing. Do all of what you're doing in marriage. There's not the way you all are running is as a couple and you're making plans and all this stuff together. Do that in marriage. And they got married that week. They came to church that Sunday night and it happened. And they still married, still together, still loving, still a wonderful power couple, unstoppable, just running together. And they are a great example of a marriage. And I look at them, and every time I see them, I just always think about how they started off, how they gave their lives to God. And because they gave their lives to God, they honored God by getting married. Because it's like, all right, we already together. I love you, you love me. Why not do it? If God is saying, I'll honor this if you do it. And they made it happen. So it's like there's a blessing with everything that we're saying. The point is there's a blessing with this marriage. You're blessed because. Now we would prefer that you gave your lives to Jesus Christ, which is, our ultimate hope is that if you don't know Jesus in the pardon of your sins, that you give your life to God. But even if you don't, God still honors marriage. God still desires for a man and a woman to be one in marriage. He still desires. He wants you to be with him, but he still wants you to be together under him. So it's like you're still blessed either way.
Are we telling people to get married if they're in an abusive situation?
We are not.
No.
We are not. If you're in an abusive situation, run.
Yeah, you need to get out of that because God's not going to bless that.
He's not.
Specifically for people who are already working together, already love each other, and they're treating each other right, but they just haven't gotten married.
Yeah. So nothing should really change if you're already like cohabitating or you have children or whatever. Nothing should change from your day to day. Like it's just literally the piece of paper that will guarantee that your spouse will have the benefit of making decisions with things pertaining to you should you leave this earth. It's a piece of paper that says that I'm telling everybody, including the government, that I have committed my life to you, and I'm committed, to building our future together. One other thing I was going to say is that, let's see, those of you who are wanting to seek a marriage relationship, you have to make sure you are putting aside the things that you wouldn't want the other person bringing in. If you are a believer, because this show is generally for believers, that's like the intended audience. And if you're not, you're welcome to become one. You can inbox me and I can walk you through and let you know how to receive Jesus as your Lord and Savior. Because that's the goal. We want people to get saved. We want people to know who Jesus is. We want you to know the story of what he did for you and how he loved you and how he came to this earth for you. So if you are a single believer, you might be struggling with depression, or you might be struggling with alcoholism, or you might smoke weed, you might be having a sexual relationship that you need to leave behind, you might be there are a number of things that you could be struggling with that you really need to get in your word. You need to be praying, you need to be fasting, you need to be talking to somebody that is going to walk alongside you and hold you accountable. If you don't trust the people in your church, maybe it's time you talk to your pastor about that and tell them why. Or if you don't even trust your pastor, maybe you might need to think about a new church. Because you have to eventually trust somebody. There's not there's always going to be something at every church you go to, because it's people. People are humans. Okay. It's not about finding complaints at every church, but you should at some point be able to trust somebody. And if 1-888 need him, you can call somebody and talk to them right now. Yeah. Okay. Find somebody you trust and talk to them and be honest with them. Don't be too embarrassed to call out your own sin, because you know what? The enemy stands and accuses you every single day, and that's not even his business to tell. And he stands to accuse you all the time, telling your business. And if you don't tell your own business, it's going to be exposed at some point. So, that's just kind of like how it happens. But if you have things that you need to set aside. You have things that you want to learn. You don't know how to be a wife. You're scared to be a wife. Read Proverbs 31. Read about the wives that are in the Bible. If you don't know how to be a husband, read the book of Proverbs. It talks about husbands all throughout there, about men and their wives, and the New Testament talks about men and leading your wives. Ephesians 5 talks about marriage. There are a multitude of things available for us. There's the power of a praying husband and power of a praying wife. There's the marriage conference from Family Life, the weekend to remember. They have resources on Family Life. Moody has resources. There are all types of resources online for men and women to learn how to be believers who are committed to living their best life for Christ, at the same time preparing themselves for their marriage relationship whenever that takes place. You don't have to be stuck being single forever, and fixing yourself doesn't guarantee you get a spouse in 5 days. It just means you are being the person that you're looking for. You have to be that first, and you have to be willing to set those things aside. God's not gonna say, you know what, here's my best person for you, and you're still doing things that person's not gonna like. That relationship's not gonna work out. You want it to work out. You want it to work for both of you. You want to bless each other. You want to be operating in your gifts. And if you're in a slump, because that happens, find a way to get over your slump. Have a revival. And your revival is when your heart is turned back to God. Turn your heart back to God and be in that relationship with him, where he's going to be directing you, and he's going to be leading you, and he's going to be guiding you. And, I don't know if you guys had anything else to add on to that, anything?
I did. I just can't
remember. The other resource that I was giving, James quoted earlier.
There's another Christian people that you can watch their stuff and learn from. Mr. and Mrs. Kev on Stage.
Kev on Stage and Miss Kev on Stage, they have the love hour. That's true. And they talk to everybody. They talk about a lot of stuff.
They go into it because they really work on their marriage, make it work. And they started off being together in high school.
Yeah. And
worked their way up till now. Both of them in their 30s.
Yeah.
So talk about an example.
Yeah. So that's a whole other thing too. And James earlier quoted somebody that I had heard at a Christian camp. I used to be a camp counselor for a Christian camp in the summers. And her name is Melody Fabian. That's Fabien. Her husband is CD, and they together do marriage conferences and classes and workshops. And she gives her testimony of how the Lord kept her. Like, their marriage, their wedding made the newspaper because she was 27 or something, and she had never, she had saved her first kiss until the day she got married. And he was not a virgin, but she was. And it was just an awesome story. And she's very relatable. She's involved in a number of projects. She does street lights. One of my close friends, her husband is part of the Street Lights project. And, they kind of have people that read the scriptures over a little beat in the background, really cool. And Melody's been part of that. But I just love the way that she shares her testimony, and the way that it's just so real and authentic. And she talks about the foundation leading up to marriage, which the foundation is not sex. Sex happens after marriage. It's all the way at the top. You start your building blocks. Sex is after marriage. And, just look her up because she has stuff. And I think she's also doing a podcast right now. I forgot what it's called, but if you look her up, Melody Fabian, she's on Facebook. She's been doing a podcast about marriage, and that's really cool. So
I just remember what I was going to say.
Okay.
As far as what you were saying about working on yourself, in the book of Ruth, perfect example of working on yourself, and while working, you find your spouse. Boaz was a hardworking man who owned all this property and was working with all these people, and everybody he worked with, there was growth. Working on himself. Ruth was a Gentile who had moved back into Israel with her mother-in-law. She submitted to her mother-in-law, and because her mother-in-law was an elderly woman, she went out and got a job to bring food to the house. So she's working to help her mother-in-law.
Yeah.
That's her focus was not what she, her focus wasn't, oh, this guy cute or that or the other thing. Her focus was, I need whatever I can do, I need to do it so my mother-in-law can survive. Because it was a famine at the time. That's what her mindset was. Then he saw her and was like, whoa, who is that? And then she saw him looking at her, and she looked at him and was like, whoa, who is that? And she went back to Naomi and was like, so I just met this man. And Naomi was like, oh, I know him. Here's what you need to do. And then both of them found where their focus was not relationships. And that's another problem that's wrong with our generation. We're so relationship oriented. Just all the memes, all the posts. I'm just sick of it. It's just so much stuff about relationships. Just relationship. I'm like, chill, y'all. What are you doing in your life that's helping you alone be successful?
Yeah, she wasn't sitting there like, oh my God, that's gonna be your husband. Let's get overly excited about this.
Like,
she was just giving her wise counsel.
And he wasn't, trying to be with every girl he could be with, because he was focused on, because there was a famine and he had a land that was producing food, he had to get that food out to people who needed it. He was giving what was left to the poor and was getting stuff out. So he wanted to get married, but that wasn't his focus. So he found himself doing something, then being successful in that thing, and while doing that, he found his wife. She found herself doing something, serving her mother-in-law, and then while doing that, she found her husband. Yeah. So it's like, you have to find yourself doing something. Find yourself helping people. Find yourself not just working to work, but working to make someone's life easier. Working to help people. Working to be better at something. To get skills, not just for your benefit, but for the benefit of your family, for the benefit of your friends. So like when you find yourself doing that, then the person that God wants you to be with is going to come along. Even if you're working at McDonald's and you're the best server there, people come there just because of how you say hello. God is going to have somebody come in there, walk in there, and you greet them in such a way that they like, whoa, I want to get to know this person.
If you watch 100 Humans, it's like the girl that she thought the guy in the Burger Boy was real cute because of just like, they did an experiment if people look better in a uniform or out of uniform. And she walked up to the Burger Boy, and it was this tall, dark, and handsome guy. And he was just talking to her. He had a script he was reading, like whether he was in plain clothes or uniform. And she's like, I don't even know his name. I don't know what he said, but he was cute. And just because of how he presented himself.
And it's like
that gets back to like what we were saying earlier about knowing who you are already, knowing what you're going to be doing and how to be successful.
Yeah, if you know who you are, wearing a Burger Boy or Burger Girl uniform isn't going to change who you are. You're just your authentic self. You can present yourself as such at all times. You don't have to flip flop and change who you are depending on your situation and your group and your clothes. But yeah, so you said something that kind of made me think about two things. And then after those two things, we will be done. The first thing is that I would strongly discourage in your friendships the notion that it's okay to, how do I put this? Let's say your friend likes somebody. And the somebody that they like is in a relationship. I would discourage you encouraging that person to be hoping that couple breaks up so that they could be with them. That's number one, because that's ungodly. That's ungodly.
Yeah.
Unless the Lord, the Lord could tell you that's going to be your husband. It's not your job to break up that couple. If the Lord's telling you that's going to be your husband or that's going to be your wife, the Lord's going to tell that person. If they are grounded in him and they can hear his voice, he's going to take care of that. That's not your job to do. And the second thing is that when I was in college, I had a friend that kind of said in passing, we were talking about a bunch of stuff, and then in passing, she made a comment that was, you are married until you are single. And at the time, I disagreed because I just had this thing that was like, oh, well, no, if you're in a relationship with somebody, it's not that simple, because even though you're not married, you don't disrespect somebody's relationship, which is true. But what she meant to say was that even if you are, let's say you're engaged, that still is not room for y'all to engage in a sexual relationship, because at any point, you can change your mind, they can change their mind, and you split ways. And at that point, you already gave yourself to them. And it's not to say, oh my God, your life's ruined and all of, it's to say that that's something special that was being held for somebody else has now been given away to this person, that now they have this piece of you, they have this memory of you, they have this vision of you, they have this knowledge about you that they're not supposed to have. That's what it means to know somebody biblically, because you know this thing about them, you know what they are like. And nobody should really know that except your spouse that you're actually married to. So that was the second thing. But you said that the first thing I said reminded you of a story.
Of Bishop Mason. Bishop Mason. Bishop Mason, Bishop Charles Mason. He was before he became a bishop or pastor or whatever. Before he got into the higher up position, he was married. Not before he became a bishop. Before he became a pastor. Anyway, he was married. Oh, before he became a preacher. Anyway, he was married.
He was married.
And his wife did not want to be married to a preacher. So he said, well, the Lord, this is what the Lord is calling me to do. And if this is not what you want to continue working with me and supporting with me in that, then they went their separate ways. They divorced. However, that was not what the Lord wanted for him. And the woman that the first wife that he had, she died. And
the Bible says you can't remarry
unless the person dies.
If you get divorced, you can't remarry. Until the person dies.
So you're not supposed to remarry if you get divorced.
As it should be.
Yes. So they divorced. They went their separate ways. He kept preaching God's word, and the Lord kept moving him in the direction he wanted him to go to. And the lady passed away. And then after she passed away, of course, some years later, he ended up getting married again. So I say that as an example to, breaking up people's relationships. You ain't got to do nothing. If God has set a plan for your life, all you have to do is walk. All you have to do is walk in the way that he wants you to go, and make sure your relationship with him is on point.
Right, because he didn't have to divorce her because she disagreed and then be out of what the scriptures say and then go and find himself another wife right away, and then this lady is still alive.
Yeah,
because the Lord in that time, he could change her mind.
He could have.
And she could come back to him and say, you know what, I'm sorry. The Lord has been dealing with me, and I want to, and they could have gotten remarried and restored their relationship. So that's part of the reason why we shouldn't really get remarried after we divorce, because at any time the Lord could be dealing with that other person and really fix the issue that was wrong.
Like off of Fireproof. Guy's parents.
Yeah.
Because they had divorced, and the mother kept praying and was fasting and reading God's word, praying for her husband, but her husband was the one that wanted to divorce.
Yeah.
We got an example of that at our church. And after years of being divorced, got married because the Lord knitted them back together.
Yeah. Yeah. So, but that's all that we were really gonna talk about today. It was just a random conversation, and it turned into like hour and 45-minute video because we just kept talking. I mean, there's so much to talk about. Like even the stuff that we just talked about is not everything. Like there's so much more to marriage. There's so much more to relationships and waiting and why marriage is worth it. It's worth it. It is worth it.
It is.
And you know, you can still have your doubts if you want to, I guess, but
and it also helps to be friends, guys. And that's in any relationship. Like even if you're dating, be friends. Be friends. If you're friends, my cousins who've been married, how long have they been married now? 15? Yeah. Was it 15 years?
I think it was their 15 years.
Their number one advice was being friends. Yeah. That being friends got them through the toughest of times because it's like that's all it's like when you have a tough time and you're like, well, I don't want to talk to my wife right now. I want to talk to my friend. And I want to know, what does my friend think about this conversation right now? Yeah. And then, you know, that changes the whole conversation and gets to a whole deeper level. Then what ends up happening is you end up talking to each other back to being husband and wife.
Yeah.
So it's like, so that's why it's always good. Be friends and be best friends. Like, you know, make it work. You always find something fun in it. All right. Other than the nasty.
Okay.
You can into it.
We're gonna sing the song now. Ready? Let's do it again. 1, 2, 3, go. True love faith. We're in the wrong key.
Oh, they go the right key.
1, 2, 3, go. True love faith. True love faith. Thank you guys for tuning in. Make sure you like, share, subscribe, comment. Find me on Instagram, Christian Madi TV. ChristianMadiTV@gmail.com. Find me on Twitter, Singing Vessel. Like the Facebook page for TLF Truth Love Faith. And that is all. Thank you guys so much. Bye-bye.